Everyone, it is Ashley Little from Wholesaling Out of the Box, and today I am joined by Luna Ankrum, Cameron Peters, and Jacob McPherson. We're here to discuss the intro of Who Not How by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. Throughout this book, you'll learn to shift your perspective from how can I do this to who can do this for me. Making this shift involves retraining your brain to stop limiting your potential based on what you can do on your own and instead focus on the infinite and endless connections between yourself and other people, as well as the limitless transformation possible through those connections. Step one in the shift is reading this book and thinking about how to apply it to your own life. So without further ado, let's get started. Jacob, go ahead and take it away.
Awesome. So first question, what is it that you are trying to accomplish? Right? We all have goals. We're all striving to seek and achieve something. What is that? And are you trying to do it alone, or are you actively building relationships with others that will allow you to grow that dream bigger and better? Or are you keeping your goals to yourself and keeping them small to make them easier to accomplish, right? Instead of involving other people, which would allow you to grow. Do you really think that you must be the single person to put the blood, sweat, and tears and bearing all of that load to prove your own capability? Do you have to do that on your own, or is there a better way?
Are you asking that as a question to us?
I am asking that as a question to everybody, to the group.
It sounded like a very motivational speech, so I thought you were just kind of talking for that. So
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the short answer is no. You don't have to do most things by yourself. You can find someone to help you, to do part of it with you. I mean, there are a lot of options there.
Any other feedback, Cam? Luna?
I agree that you could get a lot more like larger things done when you have tasks delegated out to others, as well as just helping like in a team setting. I think if you're doing everything alone, you're very limited in terms of what you can accomplish.
Sure. And we see this so often in real estate, right? Especially in wholesaling. We see this idea that I want to be able to go and do my own thing, and I want to just watch YouTube University, and I want to teach myself, and then I want to go and do my first wholesale deal. And then we see it more often than not. It is so difficult to do every single aspect of the deal that people often fail, right? Mm-hmm. So the idea of you're trying to accomplish your first deal and you're trying to do everything yourself, which initially a lot of us start that way, but is there a better way, and can you involve other people, and what does that look like moving forward? And then how does that allow you to outgrow what you initially thought was possible? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of, I think, the discussion that we're going for today. In doing so and growing your team, you start getting into delegation and creating SOPs and systems and processes. And I guess, Ashley, is that something you want to speak on moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to sort of put a disclaimer here at the front of the podcast too, to say that we know that small businesses, they're not like the Bank of Americas of the world that can put someone in each individual position. That's just not going to happen when you first get started. But the idea of this who not how is that as you move forward and you realize, okay, I was able to make $5,000 this month. So I'm going to take some of that money and reinvest it so that I can bring someone on to help me. And maybe next month I'll only make 4, but the month after I'll start to make 6 or 7 because I've started training this person and they're able to do what they need to do. But back to your question about SOPs and delegating. So it's important to delegate and kind of check your ego at the door. Looks like Sean's going to be on here. And I have the hardest time with that, especially in the beginning. Now I'm like, take it off my plate, have it. I don't want to do it. But in the beginning, I was like, only I can do this perfectly or correctly. And that's just not the way to go. But like it says in the book, it can be easy to focus on how, especially for high achievers who want to control what they can control, which is themselves. It takes vulnerability and trust to expand your efforts and build a winning team. It takes wisdom to recognize that one, other people are more than capable enough to handle much of the hows, and that two, that your efforts and contribution, your hows, should be focused exclusively where your greatest position and impact are. Your attention and energy should not be spread thin, but purposefully directed where you can experience extreme flow and creativity. Which led me to the question, back in school, when you guys were doing group projects, what was everyone's role? Because I was the person that did everything. Shocker, I know. But like, what were you guys doing in group projects?
You don't want to know what I was doing in group projects.
Oh, you were that person.
Yep. I was the party guy in high school, but I listened to my own daughter, who is much on the other end of the spectrum with her mom, straight A's. I didn't even know you could get a GPA past 4.0, but she's past 4.0. And whenever she does group projects, this is always her main complaint, right? Is that she's doing most of the work because she cares so much about the outcome and cares about the grade and cares about what moving forward, right? That she will pull the other people along because she will not let it affect her. But, you know, she addresses it with them, but often it's for no reason. So I can resonate with that completely. And I think that, you know, in this terms in the book, she doesn't have the right who's helping her out, right? Because they're just sitting back and coasting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a really interesting point that you say that, Cam, because for one, it sounds like your daughter's like a natural born leader, for starters, pretty much wrangling everybody together and then accomplishing the project and pulling them along, like you had said. I think that that's so critical and crucial to somebody who is starting a business, especially if you're an entrepreneur or if you're somebody who's getting into wholesaling. You have to have that initial vision. And then, like you said, at that point, it's just a matter of, is the right ass in the right seat? And do you have the correct who to help you accomplish that vision? And I think that that's a really great point to bring up. I've seen it done a million different ways as far as how you split up group projects. And I think I've probably been at all levels of the spectrum. I started off like Cam, where I was definitely not interested in doing most of the work. And then as I went through engineering school, naturally I started to deep dive things a little bit more. So I did a lot of the initial research going into some of the projects and papers. And then on the back end, I also would assemble pretty much the entire written report or document, taking everybody's individual pieces and putting them together to create the end product.
Yeah. I also think there's a little bit of people pleaser in there as well. At least for me, like being able to have that control, but also to make it easier on everyone else is kind of where part of that comes from. But I think this book is a really good example of this because Dan Sullivan did not write this book. Benjamin Hardy did, and he had notes from Dan Hardy and his partner / wife, Barb, and got to observe some of his training tactics, but that was it. And they talk about in the book how they told Dan or Dan told them, like, yeah, I'm trusting you guys to be able to do your how. Like, you're the who, do the how, and then I'll see what it looks like at the end.
Yep.
And we had a late addition to the podcast, guys. Sean Bowen is in here now. Someone didn't read the calendar. But yeah, okay, Luna, I think you've got the next one.
Yeah, so the point I'm talking on is like shifting your mindset from how can I achieve this goal to who can help me achieve this goal. And on that, it's really important to be able to reach out, like ask for help when you need it and be willing to accept that you can't do everything your way or on your own. Business-wise, this helps, I think, a lot in terms of efficiency. I know that if someone's sitting there trying to be perfectionist about a task, like I know I have a perfectionist switch that I have to turn off a lot of the times where I will like marry a project until I've spent way more time on than it needed in the first place, and then a bunch of other things need to get done, and then they don't get the attention that they need. So it's really important to be able to say, you know, do I need to sit here and fuss over this, or is it okay for me to let someone help me with this? It's kind of like putting that pride aside kind of idea. And that's where I see that like falling in like a business side of things. It's just pushing that efficiency up. And then in terms of like personal life. Like I know for me especially, I have 2 roommates and I don't like to delegate tasks. So I'll clean like the whole apartment, I'll do the dishes, I'll do everything. And they keep like I know if I asked them to help me, they totally would. It's just I feel like I'm not like just stubborn, but also I feel like I'm being annoying by asking. It's like the people pleaser thing that you were talking about, Ashley, of like you want to do everything because you feel like it would make things easier on others. And also that level of control, because I do admit I do like to have things a certain way. So I mean there's those two like aspects I think to not wanting to ask for help.
Yeah. I also think there is a little bit of proving your worth too. So like, especially when I was first hired on, it was the first time Sean had someone on full time and it's like, oh, well, I have to prove that I belong here, that I can do this job. And now I'm like, please take my stuff. I don't want to do this. So it's getting to that point kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely agree.
I think piggybacking off of something that Luna had said, and this will kind of lead into what Sean is going to talk about in his next opening here. The idea that a lot of us too, especially when you know what you're really good at, right? You end up taking the time and basically telling yourself, well, I'm going to do it because I think that I can do it better than who I'm going to be handing it off to. And I think that that's something that all of us really, really struggle with when it comes to certain projects, because we have a certain unique ability. So in doing that particular item, it's kind of like, well, why would I want to pass that off? I know that I'm going to accomplish it. I know I'm going to do it better. It doesn't make sense. So I think, Sean, you can probably take it from there.
Oh, yeah. Unique ability. Love it. I love it. This is a big one. All right. So I'm just going to read this and then I'm going to free flow so I don't get lost on things. Who creates results? How creates problems? God, if that doesn't explain me to a T. Find your unique ability and then who to take care of the rest. That's what the leadership is, creating and clarifying the vision to the what. And then giving the vision greater context and importance is the why for all the who's involved. Once that what and why, and this thing's jacking me up. Once that what and why have clearly been established, the specified who's or the who's or the who or the who's have all needed to be go out and execute the how. All the leader needs to do is point and support and encourage. All right, so let's kind of like get back to this thing. So you guys like smacked it right on the head when you said it, because you were talking about like who does these things when you guys were talking about events, or like, would you say, because I never did those in school. I
group projects.
Yeah, I was kind of
that
like
is nowhere near events, but okay.
Well, meaning like projects. I was not the guy people asked to do a project, right? Like it was just not happening because I didn't want to be involved in them at all, right? So I think it's really interesting that as I grew older and then wanted to own a business, like I had to find the who's, right? I was doing it all the time. And then I was just like, man, like you suck at this stuff. At certain things that you're good and other things you suck. So like, knowing your unique ability is really good. Like I thought I was somewhat organized, and then Ashley came on and I was like, you don't know shit. Like you don't organize anything, right? So it's really just a really good definition. And then you get on with acquisitions and dispositions. And now we have Luna with marketing. So knowing all these people that have these really good specific things, right? Like Jacob's really good with building things out, especially on Excel stuff, right? Like that's his engineer brain. Cam is really good with like working with the team and then building things out, but then making sure that those people are doing it, right? And then combining that together with Ashley, the stuff that she built, and then it's like, I don't have time to do this anymore. I gotta have a new who, because I'm not gonna try to do the how anymore. Like I built it, I'm good. Yes, I belong here and I run this shit. Cool, let's go, right? So I think it's really interesting to read that part in the book where it's unique ability, because you have to understand what you're good at and what you suck at. And that's a really big part of ego as well, right? Like letting go of the vine, letting go of this piece that you don't do good at it. Like admit it, you suck. So like give it to somebody that can do it better. And I think that's a big part that people have to recognize moving into a business mindset. So if you're going to grow a business, there's no way, and I mean no way, you're going to do this by your own. You can't do this by yourself, all right? You cannot grow a true business by yourself. And I think that we as a team have seen that. So Yeah, unique ability, man. Know it, recognize it, and then be that visionary and have those people that are going to back you up and say, oh, well, let's take this and do that. Right. That's a great idea. Now go squirrel out on something else and come up with it, and we'll finite this one. Like, we'll make this one better. Right. So yeah, I think unique ability. I recognize it. I know it's what I do. And I'm fortunate enough to have a team like you guys to be able to help execute on some of these things, the things that I didn't even know we could do. Ashley and I were talking about that yesterday. I was like, wow, past Ashley is just nothing compared to 2.0 Ashley. That's awesome. So I think that's it for me, right?
Yeah. Does anyone else have something they want to talk about with unique ability?
I think Sean covered it all.
Yeah. I will say Sean has been preaching unique ability for as long as I've known him. So as soon as I saw this, I was like, yep, Sean's going to talk about this.
It's a real thing. I mean, it comes from one of my old mentors. It comes from this book. It's just recognized in a lot of different things. It's actually talked about in traction, right? It's a piece of it. So when you start to do this, you got to understand what role you play and then have those other people come in and help. So I think it's very important. Recognizing it. Very important.
So it looks like the next part, it's called delegation, not exploitation. And so I'm gonna read this kind of real quick like Sean did and then kind of summarize in my own words. But it basically says in every who relationship, we're all who's. That's how I'm gonna say it, right? So it's not just like the leader needs their who. The leader is also somebody else's who. And I think
all right, somebody say it, damn it. Who's Bill down
funny in the book?
I know. I wrote that in the notes. I was like, I feel like we're in the How the Grinch Stole Christmas. We're just with all the little who's down in Whoville.
Yep.
Somebody watching this has got to say that. They're gonna be like, guys, we're talking about.
Yeah. I think he said that in the intro, if I remember right.
Nice.
I was about to say, but anyways, yeah, definitely sounds we're talking some Dr. Seuss stuff here, but it says to me that all the who's, everybody on the team is on the same playing field, right? The same level field, because everybody needs everybody. And this resonated with me a lot because it goes back to, of course, always my military days, right? And I don't think I realized that most of the military training also relates to all this. The books that we've read between Never Split the Difference and between the who, not the how. And that being going back to what we were always taught when we were younger was a quote by General Patton that said, you don't ever tell somebody how to do something. You tell them what needs to be done, and then you'd be amazed by the results that they come up with on their own, right? So never tell, and I've worked in many different forms of leaderships where I was told exactly how to do something. Man, that sucks. Because you're just like, well, what am I, just a robot, right? I'm just gonna do it exactly the way you wanna do it. And it makes you feel as though you don't have any input there, right? Or just tell me what, let's talk about the vision. Let's establish the vision. And I'll tell you in my own expertise, how we can get there and how I can help you get there. Right. And that is the ultimate level of, collaboration, realizing that a lot of things in the team, I don't need to do. I need to ask one of these people here on the panel to help me out with, and they got it. And they'll do it 10 million times better than I would ever do it. And I would always say that to anybody I've worked with, that I'm definitely not the smartest person in the room. Matter of fact, I'm probably at the back of the room, but I can help you in certain ways, right? And I was always completely fine with that. And I think it's important, one thing that was mentioned already, to check your ego, man. If you got a big ego and you think you got all the right answers, just forget about it, man. I don't want to work with you already. Forget about it, because it's just not going to work. So that's how I viewed the whole delegation, not exploitation, that every who and whoville is important, no matter how small. There it is.
And your heart grew 3 sizes that day.
That's right.
Yes.
So funny.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Because I think that I didn't even realize it until I started reading this book, that there was a part of me that was kind of like, oh yeah, I do sort of see delegation as exploitation, as like okay, I'm exploiting your need for money by making you do this. And that it's a mindset shift that definitely needs to happen.
Definitely. That's a big one. That's a good takeaway on that one.
Mm-hmm.
People got to understand it. Delegation is real.
Yeah.
How many times did we talk about that when you and I started doing it? We're like, Ashley, you got to bring somebody on to help you. Like, you can't
Yeah.
do all this.
Yeah,
And it was such
a
a
lot.
fight in the beginning. It's like, no, I got it. You're like, no, you need to hire somebody.
Yeah, it was a lot, but I can do it now. And,
That's right.
you know, like I said, just a big mindset shift. And once you get there, it is so freeing, which I think goes into Jacob's next point about transforming and expanding your vision.
Yes. So the who's that you bring on and collaborate with are ultimately going to transform and expand the vision. And they're going to give you what the book calls freedom of purpose. So this is the idea that doing everything yourself limits your potential. Whereas collaborating with others, the who's, allows you to free up your time and then further reflect on your own vision. And then the who's will allow you to expand that vision beyond what you ever thought was capable or possible. Now, there's a couple of issues here going back to that delegation and exploitation, right? Delegation not being exploitation. And you see you really see this come out when you're talking about a transformational relationship versus a transactional relationship. So transactional relationships being, I'm going to pay this person to do this piece of work and that's all I need from them. And I don't care about growing the relationship any further. So a transactional relationship in and of itself is very limited. Whereas a transformational relationship is the idea of building and growing and collaborating with that person to not just do one specific task, but to go and create something from the bottom up and achieve that vision that you're ultimately trying to go for. So I'll read one piece here. So in transformational relationships, all parties give more than they take. There is an abundance mindset and an openness to novelty and change. So rather than viewing people or services as a cost, as in the transactional mindset, then everything is more viewed as an investment with the possibility of 10 times, 100 times, or even greater return and change. Create an open environment for ideas, no judgment and brainstorming. So I absolutely love this. And we were just talking about it, Cam brought it up, the idea that he doesn't necessarily want to limit anybody. He doesn't want to tell somebody how to specifically do their job. The idea that, especially when we all meet for our business development meetings, we open up the floor to any ideas that anybody has to bring to the table that day. And there's no judgment whatsoever across the board. And I think that having that environment and creating it makes people feel comfortable. It makes people feel like they're a part of the team and being able to actually give and provide basically to the vision in and of itself, right? Because for a lot of us, I'll take myself as an example, right? I was brought on specifically to talk about acquisitions initially, but Sean and the rest of the team have always fostered this environment of being able to grow beyond that. So the idea of being able to bring my, unique ability to the table with my engineering mindset and my deep diving and so on has allowed me to build out a couple of different marketing avenues, well, not marketing avenues, but lead source avenues and so on, and then building those systems and processes to go with it. And those are things that, 6 months ago, we hadn't even thought of. So, and the only reason that even came out and was made possible was because of this idea of no judgment and brainstorming and throwing ideas out on the table and discussing them openly and feeling comfortable in doing so. And ultimately that's led to something that is, I think, turned out really great so far, and is going to turn out even better than what we ever imagined. And the bigger your goals become, the better the who's you'll need. I think that's a great starting point. So you can take it from I take this from the standpoint of, initially I'm starting off my wholesaling venture, right? Which is where most of us were at, right? We're just trying to get started, or we were there at one point in time, and we try to do everything ourselves. And then maybe the person that we bring on is just somebody that's doing just some of the administrative tasks, right? Nothing too difficult, nothing too crazy. But the larger that you grow your wholesaling venture, eventually you find, well, shoot, I definitely need a good closing attorney, right? Because we're dealing with some title issues that are incredibly difficult to work through, right? So I have to expand my team to people that are knowledgeable in those areas. So I think that's a great quote. The bigger your goals become, the better the who's you'll need, because you're going to need to bring on people with additional expertise that you don't currently have. That's the only way that you're going to outgrow what you're doing.
Yeah. I kind of want to go back. It was just sort of skimmed over both in the book and in our conversation about scarcity mindset versus abundance mindset, because I think that is so important. You see a lot of people, especially in real estate, because it is one of those things that, sometimes inventory is scarce and people see it as such. And they see this as as a pie. There's only so much pie to go around. And I just don't think that's the case at all. It's not like a traditional pie. It's the 3.14 pie that, goes on forever and ever. There's a number for everyone and everyone will get some, So I think just making sure that you've got that abundance mindset in place is super important, because, it's like that ladder of success where you're going to help people up rungs as you go up too.
Totally.
I saw you guys laughing at my
oh, your
my
pie
pie
thing
joke.
got me. Ashley's gonna throw in an algebra thing, and everybody was just like,
Nerds.
That was awesome. Yes, abundance mindset is so big, and I think Jacob nailed it right on the head. That was really good. I've always this was a quote that my wife and I have had forever. She started it, and it was just stuck. Right. And it's like, there's no judging and brainstorming, Sean. We're just talking about something. I'm like, okay, let's talk. Right. And then we brought that into the company, and it's been awesome. Everybody will kick out some ideas, and some are good and some are bad. And that's how you get to experience and grow things. Otherwise, you don't want to put it because you don't want to worry about somebody like, ooh, was that really a good idea? Like, just go for it. See what happens, because you can't come up with anything new if you don't. So I think that's really awesome that you brought that up, Jacob, because I've enjoyed that. You guys come up with tons of killer stuff.
Yeah.
This guy ain't coming up with that one. So that's awesome. And especially with like some of your spreadsheets that you've done, or your process that you've built out, right? That stuff is really cool. And now you're taking the reins by running it and seeing what it's like and overseeing the entire project, right? And you're seeing like some of the hurdles and objections you have to get past. So it's allowing you to see something different from what you created that ultimately is going to create something beneficial to you.
Mm.
So really cool.
And eventually we'll have to bring somebody on to manage that.
Yeah.
Totally.
Exactly. Circle of life.
That's right.
And I think there's this quote here from the book: not only must the who fully own the how, but they must have complete permission to do so. And I just think that's really important. So we brought Luna on recently, as you guys have seen, and there was a little bit of hesitancy on my part, not because of who Luna is, but just because, okay, I've been doing this myself for 3 years. So deep breath, time to give it to someone else. And a little bit of, okay, eventually you have to you can do training, but you have to push the baby bird out of the nest and let it fly. And that's what you kind of have to do. So hopefully I've been doing that well enough, Luna, but I can take feedback as long as it's constructive.
Yeah, understand.
That has been so cool to watch. So cool. Like Luna growing into it. We actually talked about it on our live today. Just actually, I think it was afterwards, but we talked about what it's like to come into an environment like ours as a company and have that ability to go do what you got hired to do, right? Be creative, go find things out. Like, hey, we just want to know this number and want it to work. So like, how can you make that happen? Show us, right? And then take some of the things that Ashley created and make them better. So that is so cool to watch. Man, it's like going back 3 years and being like, hey, Ashley, you need to do this. Bring this person on to help you. And then like 3 years, fast forward, there it is. You're like, oh, shit, that's awesome. And all of us read it. We read some of the things that Luna, you've come up with. And it's so cool. We're like, oh, that's a good one. Like literally sitting in my car laughing and making a video of it. It was so awesome. That was so cool. Who's next?
Cam.
So it looks like talk a little bit more about transformational leaders. And to me, it's more about the vision here, because a transformational leader does give you the vision and then just gets out of the way, right? And that's usually what needs to happen, because usually the leader needs to transform their vision, but needs to step out of the way, because they will inherently just block progress if they stay involved in that process, right? And create a bottleneck to it. So I think the trust needs to be there in the team, that once you find the who and you put them in the spot and you explain to them the vision, not the how, you explain to them the vision of where they're going and what needs to be done, then it's important for the transformational leader to step out of the way and watch what happens, because it's always going to be good. As long as you show us that right who, it's going to be good. It's going to go forward, and we've seen it in many different positions in the company where it's better than what the vision imagined, right? It's past it, it's surpassed it, and it's not a fluke. It's because the right who is the one that's doing that, and you can tell. And when you got the wrong who, you can tell that as well. But I think it's really important to one, establish the clear vision, and then everybody understands it and everybody's working toward it in their own piece, their own leg of the table, if you want to put it that way, right? A table needs to have all of its legs to stand up. It can't stand up on two. It's gonna fall over. So that's the way I looked at the vision. And I really like the Michael Jordan thing, which nobody's mentioned yet. So I just read the intro in the first chapter just this morning, and dude, the whole Michael Jordan thing, I'm from Illinois originally. So when I grew up watching Michael first, and I'm not a huge basketball fan. I don't watch basketball now. I could care less, right? But watching Michael grow, man, and watching that team grow and realizing that he could not do it all on his own. And that's kind of what the book talks about, even though he's considered to be the best basketball player of all time, maybe even the best athlete of all time. He can't do it all by himself. And he needed a Scottie Pippen, and he needed a Stockton. They didn't mention Dennis Rodman, which I was kind of upset about. They needed Dennis Rodman, right? Because he just brought that. He was one of my favorites. And just watching that team and what they did with Michael as the leader, but he could not do it on his own. Those first few seasons, man, they bombed. They went down in flames when he was trying to do it on his own. It just don't work. So I thought that was really cool. I enjoyed the first chapter as well, but they started talking about Michael Jordan. I was like, oh, what's up? And then they explained it, and I was like, I was a teenager when all this went down, so I didn't think about it that way. I just like, man, you can't fucking do it. Wait, now he's got these guys, and now they can do it. But it totally makes sense looking back. So I thought that was a really great intro to the book. Well done, authors. Well done.
Okay. Sean, you've got the conclusion here.
All right. Well, this is the best part, I guess, to the end of this chapter we're talking about. The promise of this book is dead serious and simple. Every time you apply who, not how, by imagining a new foil, is that a goal? And getting who's to work towards it. Don't put up the prompt or he'll read it. All right. So
I was typing fast.
You will improve your time, increase your income, and expand your relationships and deepen your purpose. If you don't, you'll continue to be frustrated and procrastinate instead of pursuing your dreams. You'll live a life of regret, become a shell of who you might have been. As the famous quote says, someone once told me the definition of hell: the last day on earth, you meet the person that you could have become. So I think this is a really good end to this chapter just because it's a good start to the rest of the book. And I've enjoyed this book a lot. And it was another catalyst to forcing me as a business owner to think about how can I get the who's to do the how. And I don't know if you guys remember it, but I started talking about it a while. And after I was reading the book, I kept saying, like, we got to find the right ask the right seat, right? Like the who to do the how, not us figure it out. And then we started doing it, right? We're looking for VAs. We found Luna. We've had other people to work with on other avenues, from like titles to other people in other markets, like that kind of stuff. So yeah, we don't beat our heads against the wall anymore trying to figure it out, right? We just need to go find the person that knows how to already do it and not reinvent the wheel. And I agree. If you cannot allow yourself to grow into this world, then you're hindering yourself. You're really stopping yourself from growth as a business. And you're hindering what could be a really good team. And if people are listening to this and or watching this as a replay and seeing what's on the screen, this is a killer team that I'm fortunate enough to work with. I am stoked to have this team. Things that we come up with, things we talk about, the good, the bad, doesn't matter. Like, it's awesome. I get to wake up every single day and work with these guys and enjoy watching things grow, right? So I've really enjoyed this book, but especially this chapter to start off. So I'm looking forward to the rest of it with you guys and seeing what it's got for you and what maybe you took away from it to help you grow on personal and inside of the business to make things better for yourself.
Yeah. And I think one thing we've all learned from this recording is that we need to have Sean read everything one time before we start recording so that there's not as much difficulty. But yeah. Anyway.
We'll put a period on the prompter. He'll read anything.
Right. So thanks everyone for listening to us discuss the introduction of Who Not How. If you're interested in hearing us discuss more about this book and get other real estate investing tips and tricks, be sure to subscribe to our podcast anywhere you can listen. In the past, we've discussed both traction and never split the difference, and all of those episodes are still available. Finally, if you'd like what you're hearing, have questions or suggestions, or just want to say hi, please leave us a comment or a review and find us on social media. That's it for now, and we'll talk to you next time.